Everybody, this is the Upper Tier Podcast. It's Monday, so it's the Monday mashup. Hope you can all join me for a great show. We got some real good stuff planned for tonight. Don't forget to check out our poll on the YouTube channel as well. It's up there. Who do you think will win the Champions League this season? Real Madrid, Man City, AC Milan, or Inter Milan? Happy bank holiday to everyone in the UK tuning in as well. Hope you're having a safe bank holiday and enjoying every minute of it. Football has been absolutely brilliant today. Fulham with a madness 5-3 win. Absolutely incredible. Full of goals today. Everton beating Brighton 5-1. Who would have thought it? Absolutely crazy stuff today. And going on at the moment, we'll keep you fully updated on it. But at the moment, Nottingham Forest 2, Southampton 1, 7 minutes from the 18 minute on, 7 minutes of craziness, 3 goals. Forest looking to climb out of the bottom 3 with a win. I think a draw might even do them as well after Leicester getting thumped 5-3 earlier. Brighton, of course, getting beaten 5-1 by Everton. Unbelievable win. And, of course, Forest versus Southampton 2-1. Let's see how that turns out. Going to be plenty of goals, and this looks end-to-end at the moment. So let's get into the show. Strange, I didn't even put my banner up. I forgot to put my banner up, folks. So busy here today. Crazy. I was mad in work today. And also it's Ben's birthday. He's 20 today. So happy birthday to Ben, my son. Having a great birthday downstairs. And I'm going to be back down to join them after the show. So, where will we begin? A few comments. Warren earlier messaged me. He says, that thumbnail is quality. Don't know if you've checked out the thumbnail. But it hits the spot, as they say. Henry's in. Evening, Niall and Warren. Evening, Henry. Good to see you. Henry has a quiz tomorrow at 7, so make sure you check out Henry's channel. Starting to do quizzes. He's at 121 subs at the moment, so get over there and help the man out. Keep the channel growing. Hope your weekend was great, especially since we won. I had a great weekend, Henry. All the results more or less went our way as well. So we'll be talking tonight about the top 4 race and our thoughts on it. What do we think? Newcastle losing their minds yesterday against Arsenal. And, of course, United look absolutely dead on their feet at the moment, regardless of the David De Gea mistake, which we'll get into. But they just look shattered. I think it's 58 or 59 games they've played now this season. So really, really struggling at the moment. Yeah, absolutely, Henry. I'll get you a link now. No problem at all. Where am I? Now, there you go. Yeah, Everton winning tonight. Yeah, big win for Everton. Climbing out of the bottom 3 as well. Absolutely huge for them at the moment. But we'll start with this one. We have to say, of course, up in Scotland, congratulations to Celtic, Scottish champions again. I think that's 10 out of the last 11 seasons, if I'm right. Don't forget, folks, the QR code is there on the screen as well. So if you want to hit up that QR code, you can start following us on TikTok as well. We're dropping content out there on a daily basis as well. So congratulations to Celtic on clinching the Scottish Premier League this season. Fantastic stuff. We also have big congratulations to Vincent Kompany as well, who has signed a new 5-year contract with Burnley. Just 1 second now, and I'll get Henry in. I see him there in the background.
Hi,
Good evening. How are you?
Hi. I'm fine,
Good.
thanks.
Excellent. You having a good weekend? Good bank holiday?
Yes, I didn't think there'd be many shops open, so I didn't go out today. So I've just been watching TV and relaxing, really.
Excellent. Good stuff.
And obviously watching football. Seeing Burnley winning today 3-0. So very pleased about that. They're back in the Premier League. There's a big fight down at the bottom of the Prem. I think Southampton are very gone.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they don't have any chance of getting out of it.
No.
Big
up, Ian. Good to see you in the chat, Ian. Good to see you there.
Hi, Ian. So I think it's just a race between the Blues, Forest, who haven't yet played. I think they play this week, don't they?
Forest are playing right now. They're 2-1 up against Southampton as it stands. They're out of the
Oh,
bottom
right,
three.
okay.
They're up to 16th at the moment, if it stays that way.
Well,
So your bottom three now is Leicester, Leeds, and Southampton as it stands.
wow.
Yeah.
So it's literally all changing again.
All changed. Bar Southampton. Southampton is the regular that's been in there. But outside of that, Everton picking up a big win at Brighton. Who would have thought it? 5 goals. And climbing out there 17th, and Forest are just gone above them by a point if it stays the way it stays at the moment at 2-1. They're up to 16th.
Yes, I think with West Ham, I think they're safe.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just in between Leicester, Leeds, Forest,
Yeah.
Everton. Have I missed anyone?
And Forest. Yeah,
Forest,
Forest, Everton, Leicester, and Leeds are really going to decide it, but it's getting kind of feisty now. Yeah, I think West Ham are fine on 37. Leicester's next game, of course, is against us. I think on Monday, isn't it? This day week, and Leeds' next game is coming up this week. It's against Newcastle at the weekend, so tough games. But I don't know. Maybe Leeds could get a point out of that against Newcastle. Newcastle last night against Arsenal looked like they were losing their heads big time. They were feeling the pressure of the dizzy heights of the Premier League, I think. But Arsenal certainly went at them, didn't they?
I was quite surprised that even though Arsenal played more games, that I don't think Newcastle actually turned up, did they? Really? For them to be beaten 2-0, or were Arsenal that good?
It was basically what the match that I looked was basically the reverse of the match at the Emirates. What happened was, if you look at the stats that are out there at the moment, Newcastle are top of the pile when it comes to time wasting. There's a stat out there that measures it.
Right.
And Arsenal basically turned the tables on them last night. They did exactly what Newcastle did to them at the Emirates. They slowed the game
Oh, right,
down.
okay.
They time wasted. They got the foot in. They gave a bit of a kicking, and they threw Newcastle totally off their game. And what happened yesterday was, I think Newcastle just got very emotional within the game and lost. They kind of abandoned their plan. So it shows that they can be got at. And I just wonder, could Leeds potentially get a draw at Ellen Road? I thought Leeds did really well against Man City the other day. I thought Man City were going to post a serious score against them. But it ran out 2-1, of course, as we know. And Leeds unlucky in the end. They had a couple of chances to draw as well. And I think if they can put that in for that effort in this weekend against Newcastle, there could be something in the game for them. And that, of course, will be huge for us as Liverpool fans because, of course, all the results more or less went our way at the weekend. And especially tonight again now, Brighton getting beaten gives us a bit of a gap with Brighton now. But also United getting beaten at West Ham, the craziness of that as well. And, of course, we have to talk about this, don't we? This was absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I saw the highlights of the gaff from De Gea. It was absolutely awful.
Yeah.
The goalkeeping. He should have saved it. I mean, he's supposed to be a top goalkeeper. He's been at Manchester for 10 years or more.
Yeah, pretty close anyway, yeah.
I just couldn't believe how bad. I mean, it was such an easy shot to save from outside the box.
Yeah.
A soft. I mean, anybody could have saved it. It wasn't hard hit. And he went the same way as the ball, but somehow it squirmed past him. But yeah, both Manchester and Newcastle are feeling the heat because we are right behind them. 1 point behind Manchester, and a win will put us right among the pigeons, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we're still relying on other teams to do us a favour. But when I looked at it last night, I thought the West Ham win was absolutely pivotal. And Arsenal beating Newcastle to stay in the title race meant that we have more than potentially one option. We were fighting kind of for, if you look back a week ago, it was kind of maybe hanging around for that fourth spot and trying to find it, get into a battle maybe with Man United for the fourth spot. But you got Newcastle there as well now, who are only 3 points above us. So now it's kind of opened up nicely. And the beauty about next weekend is we get to play last, so we get to see what's happened. So it gives us a better view of things for the Monday night game against Leicester, which should be an absolute belter because they were terrible today. Really,
Yeah.
really, really bad. They've kind of surrendered, and I wonder are they thinking now that they're kind of doomed a little bit.
Yeah, and even like we're saying with Brighton, even though they've lost, they've still got games in hand, but that's 6 points, so they would still be behind us, but
Yeah,
closer to Newcastle and Manchester. So
yeah.
I think it's going to be a testing time for the last few games.
Yeah, I
But
think with Brighton, Henry, Brighton, I think still have to play Newcastle and Man City. I think so. They've
right,
tough games coming up. I think, as far as I know.
well, so wow, that makes it even more
Yeah, Ian
sort
is
of
saying, "How's it going, Henry?" And Ian is saying, "Was watching the highlights of the Man United versus West Ham game. Few good attempts by Man United. Yeah, they had a couple of really good attempts. I think they hit the post twice as well before West Ham scored, and then West Ham scored that goal. But then post that goal, it got really, really flattened the game for United. West Ham had a number of chances and hit the crossbar themselves, and also had a goal disallowed for the foul on the Gea, where Antonio came in, kind of fouled the Gea, put his arm across him, but then sort of scooped the ball over his shoulder into the goal.
mm,
And it was kind of like, it was a soft enough free, but it was a foul. He had put his arm across his face, kind of thing. But I just think they did create a number of chances. And then when Ten Hag then made the changes on the subs, United came back into it again, and then West Ham had to be resolute in their defending, and then they went on the kind of counter attack against United a couple of times. But I think overall, when you look at United at the moment, I think it's 58 or 59 games they've played this season. Kind of like the run we went on last year with the quad, where it was game after game after game.
yes,
And it looks to me, when I look at United at the moment now, apart from the mistake that the Gea made, and a goalkeeper can do that. Listen, we know. Look at Allison this year; has had a couple of crazy things as well. The thing about it is, for nearly 70 minutes of that game, if you like, there just wasn't enough there for Man United that would convince me in any way that they should have got back into it. I think West Ham ran out winners, and rightly so. I think on the balance of play, I just think United at the moment they look like they're running out of gas. They look like they're running out of ideas. They're really, really struggling now a little bit in front of goal. Marcus Rashford has kind of dried up a little bit. He was kind of the talisman for goals for them. There's a lot of frustration out there at the moment. You can see Bruno at the moment constantly shooting from 30 yards out or whatever it is, and
mm,
Ericsson looks like he's struggling since he came back off the injury as well. So there's a lot for them to take in there, and I believe I read today. I think Eric Ten Hag gave them the next 2 days off. So he must feel that they're absolutely banjoed on their feet as well. So it's a lot of games to put in for a squad like that. They don't have a huge squad either. They've had a lot of injuries and a lot of suspensions to deal with. So they've
right,
played a lot of minutes this year. A lot of those players, the likes of Bruno and that and Rashford, they've played a lot of game ball this year,
yeah,
and they just look like they're struggling mentally with the magnitude of reaching two domestic finals, and also going deep into the Europa League, and of course pushing up in the table. They've been around the third spot and fourth for a while now. So the pressure of that as well is mounting. Plus, they've had such a poor away record. I think their away record at the moment is 4 points in the last out of the last 36 away or something like that. I think they've one win and one draw. Is it in 11 or 12 or something like that? It's crazy their away record. Absolutely madness. Um,
yes,
so with that all in mind, from our position, from potentially a top four situation, What's your thoughts on that? I mean, would you think we have a chance?
Oh God, it's that age-old question, isn't it? Whenever we come to the nearing the end of the season, we are always round about fourth, apart from when Rogers was our boss, and we finished sixth. So I've always tried to be positive when talking about Liverpool Football Club. We seem to make it hard for ourselves, and games that we should have won, we've either only got a point or we've lost. And the games that we have remaining are Leicester, Aston Villa, and then Southampton at last
Yeah,
game of the season.
yeah,
And considering Leicester lost to Fulham
yeah.
today quite heavily. Well, it was supposed to be heavily, but they were clawing back and lost 5-3, I think it was.
Yeah, 5-3.
Aston Villa is always going to be a difficult game because they're in such good form. And having Unai Emery as boss. That's our home game.
Yeah.
So that'll be the last time we see Roberto Firmino, Milner, and the others. So I'm guessing that they will have some game time with that one.
Well, it depends on how the game goes. If the
Yeah.
game is still in the balance, that may not be the case. The hope would be that we could put up a scoreline that allows us to do that. But that might not necessarily be the case because I think we're really deep into this top four race and anything can happen. You look at United, if we win out to the rest of the season, if we win our three games, and it's not inconceivable that we would do that because we'll be at home to Aston Villa. At that stage, they might be playing for a whole lot. Leicester, we should beat next Monday night. I'd be surprised if we don't. And Southampton, at that stage, last day, will be already relegated. So they'll have nothing really to play for. Unless they want to impress Klopp and they want to transfer to Liverpool or something. That's the only thing that they'll be playing for. So with that in mind, if we accept that maybe we'll put the 9 points on the board, that brings us to 71. We only need United to draw two of their last four games.
Right, okay.
And then we will beat them on goal difference.
Right, but we
into
shouldn't.
fourth.
We shouldn't rely on goal difference.
Yeah, but our goal difference to theirs now at the moment, I think, is something like is the 14 or 15 or something like that. So they're not going to make that up.
No, I know
so
they're not.
No, it's not a case. It's not a case of relying on it. I mean, naturally, we'd want to. Like, I'm quite happy to get 4 plays on goal difference if that's what happens, because I find that could make it a little bit sweeter.
Yes.
But I think this top four, I think it's going to be really, really tight, and it's going to be very, very interesting. And the thing about it is, if you went back 2 weeks ago, we didn't even have a card at this table in terms of top four. So it's amazing the way things have turned around. And remember, we have a history of coming from behind like this and getting there in the end. So we have that experience. You know, there's a lot of Newcastle players there at the moment, that Newcastle team looking around, and they don't have that experience. So again, they may have a problem as well. So let's see what happens. Look, we're not gonna hang our hat on it fully. We'll see how the results go. But all we can do is win our last 3 games. And if we win our last 3 games, if it's enough, well and good. If it's not, we give it a good go. And we're going to finish out the season then 9 unbeaten and 9 wins on the trot and 11 unbeaten. And that's decent form to take into pre-season then, whether we make it or not. Obviously, we'd want to get top 4 because it could have a good influence on our transfer situation. Plus our finances as well. There might be more money there potentially for Klopp to spend. I know in the past we've won the Champions League or won the league and it hasn't necessarily led to more money. But you never know this time. Maybe it could. We'll see. I wouldn't be convinced of it, but certainly I think getting back into the Champions League will help us in terms of our finances. So we'll see what happens there. But it's an interesting one, certainly an interesting one. You'll listen to United fans today as well, and from the sounds of things, it looks like they could be potentially looking for a goalkeeper in the summer. But interesting as well, and he's also winning the Golden Glove as well. He has 15 clean sheets this season, David De Gea as well. So um, you don't suddenly become a poor goalkeeper. But I think over the last 2 seasons, there has been stuff coming up, so it's made it a little bit interesting. Don't forget, folks, we have a poll going there just to remind you as well. Who will win the Champions League this year? AC Milan, Inter Milan, Man City, or Real Madrid? Let us know what your thoughts are on that. It's in the chat there for you. We're going to run a poll now on most of these shows as we go along. Henry, just before you came on as well, just to reiterate as well, congratulations to Celtic on winning the Scottish Premier League again. I think that's 10 out of the last 11 or something, or 11 out of the last 12, something crazy anyway. So congratulations to them. I think the only one they didn't win was the Stevie one, obviously. But interesting there. I just want to check out our.
Rangers have only won 3. All the rest have been Celtic.
Yeah, no, I mean in the last 11. In the last 11, I think
11.
they've only won 1.
Yes. Sorry, once, yes. In the last 11, yes.
Ian's in. Shout out to my friend, the phenomenal Darren McCummsky. Looking forward to Thursday's podcast. Absolutely. Darren will be back with us on Thursday, as always. But yeah, let us know your thoughts on that. Where do we want to begin as well? We need to talk about this, I suppose, the Man United sale. Warren's in before we get into this. I remember years Liverpool were 12th at New Year's Day and miles off the top, and Liverpool went on a mad run and won the title. Anything can happen, and when that pressure comes on, Warren, it's absolutely crazy. That's why I always say to Warren and Kyle and all the guys from the Arsenal podcast and Dell and all, don't give up hope on beating Man City yet. Never give up hope. Hang on to that, because the journey sometimes can just get you there. I know you look at it and you don't think you have what it takes. But that performance last night against Newcastle was phenomenal, I think. And it really showed that Arsenal have that grit and determination to get down dirty and nasty when they have to and battle it out. Now, is it the likelihood that they can turn it around, and will City lose a game? Who knows? City could play Real Madrid tomorrow night. Haaland could get injured. Anything could happen. De Bruyne could get injured. Anything can happen. There's still whatever it is, 3-4 games to go or whatever it is. So stick with it. Anything can happen if we can turn it around. Warren's in. Celtic have won 11 out of the last 12 titles. That's right, yeah. Rangers winning the one with Stevie, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Phenomenal record from Celtic, isn't it? The history of that club is just unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I was at a Celtic Legends game there a couple of years back. I was invited to it, and I met Stubbsy, and I met Henrik Larsson and all, and John Hartson. I met actually Warren in the chat there. I met John Hartson. John Hartson is an absolute lovely fella. He's a headbanger, but he's a lovely fella. But he was due to play in the Legends game, and he couldn't play because he was booked in for knee surgery. So he was actually managing one of the sides. And it's mad how competitive these guys are, even at these Legends charity games. The two dugouts were nearly going to kill each other. It was brilliant, and Hartson was right in the middle of it. And you see John Hartson coming out, he's a real old-school football guy as well. He comes out and he had an old raggedy T-shirt on him and an old pair of tracksuit bottoms. And, you swear the guy hadn't got €2 to rub together. But he was great. I got talking to him and all, did a bit of an interview with him and stuff like that for the podcast we used to do and stuff like that. But an absolute gentleman, but an absolute headbanger. Big Liverpool fan as well, actually. Ian Rush is his favourite player. Yeah, so there you go. There's a little bit of information for your hearts, and he was a big Liverpool fan. But yeah, top lad, absolutely. Ian's in. What's happening, Warren? So let's talk about this buyout. I don't know if you've been following this buyout with Man United and what your thoughts are on it, but it seems to be springboarding back from Qatar to Sir Jim Ratcliffe and back to Qatar, and then it seems to be springboarding about whether it's going to be a buyout, whether the Glazers are going to go, is it just going to be investment, are they going to double down on the debt? Qatar have put in a serious bid, and the Man United, and I wonder, is this sale that's looming over the club as to where it's going to be in the next, certainly in the next 2 to 3 months, but certainly then for the next 10, 15, 20 years or whatever, I wonder, is this having the effect on the pitch as well as off the pitch? Because obviously there's a little bit of uh, instability there at the moment in terms of who's going to be the owners, how it's going to push forward. Obviously, the Qatar plan is fairly simple. They're going to get rid of the debt. They want full ownership. They're going to come in. They'll develop Old Trafford. They'll create literally a new training facility at Carrington. There's going to be plenty of money to bring in players, and United will go off on an upward curve on their way again if that happens. But the Glazers seem to be reluctant on this. They're holding back on it for some reason. And there's lots of talk, of course, going around about manipulating the market and the share price and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of interesting the way it's gone. But have you any thoughts on this at all, Henry?
Well, I think they have an inflated price of the club. They say the club is worth $6 billion. Now, if you go back a bit to when both Manchester United and Liverpool were going to sell the club, each club, I think when you have something hanging over you that is quite controversial, because a lot of Manchester fans don't like the Glazers and a lot of Liverpool fans don't like FSG. And there was all this sale, or they were going to bring other businesses in, or they were going to sell, or they were going to bring business in, and it was all topsy-turvy. So I can quite understand that if fans and players are getting riled up because of the mess, you either sell the club and get out, you don't keep it going and keep putting wood into the fire, if you should see what I mean. Because FSG have taken off the bid of the club, apparently, I think, and they're just going to keep the ownership of the club, whereas this is still boiling and boiling and boiling, and I think it's going to go over the top. I mean, you have Ratcliffe, who is a Manchester United fan, who wants, obviously, the club. You've got Qataris, who don't know anything about football properly. So, even though they're willing to pay $6 billion, it's an inflated price. So they're getting, like, the club plus interest. But in that instance, I think the prices of season tickets are going to go up, the price of merchandise is going to go up, and everything else is going to go up, even though they're going to, so say, make the club even more attractive or whatever. So I don't think Manchester United are worth $6 billion. Even $5 billion, but it's a lot of money for the club, even though they've been owners of the club for a matter of time.
Yeah.
But you can put on an extorted price on a club because you're investing into the club. But then
I suppose the key thing is that from their point of view as well, we know that the whole section of the world wants to move into the West and get involved in the West and stuff like that. So we've seen it with PSG, we've seen it with Newcastle, we've seen it with various clubs. So the thing about it is, when you talk about the 5 billion, they're really looking at buying a global brand. Man United is a massive global brand, and that's what they're really paying for. You know, they're not necessarily paying for the squad because they know they're going to have to upgrade the squad. You know, they're not necessarily paying for Old Trafford because they know they're going to do a lot of work on it and probably make it even bigger than it is. They're probably not paying for Carrington because they know that it needs a total revamp. May not even stay there. They may do what we did and go off and build a brand new training facility and maybe even leave Carrington. Who knows? But they're really paying for the brand, because what I would say about that is it's not often in a lifetime that a brand like Man United comes on the market. So people have to act very quickly in terms of this situation. And you know, you think about it. I mean, how often do you see a brand like Man United or Liverpool come for sale in our lifetime? Not very often. And the thing about it is, if the Qataris go in there, they'll never find themselves in a financial situation where they'd have to sell, because they're obviously not going to run out of cash at any stage. They're probably not going to get bored with it because they'll obviously create this kind of competitive nature between themselves, Newcastle, PSG, Man City. Everyone wants to sit on the throne. Everyone wants to be the Champions League and the league winner. So you're going to get that. It's going to become, I suppose, football, when we look at it, apart from our love of football, is going to become the playground for the rich. That's what's going to happen. Now, whether that's the right direction for football to go, I don't know. But I think that rock is rolling down that hill, and it's literally impossible to stop it now at this stage. And I think that's where it's at. But I think it's intriguing to see where it's going. But it's I know there's a lot of work has to be put into this when it's such a size of this kind of buyout or whatever it is. But it was interesting that Ratcliffe also gave them an option where the Glazers stay on. And I'm sure that has a lot of Man United fans worried, because they want the Glazers gone. Because if the Glazers stay on, and if Jim stays on, and if the talk of the debt not necessarily being written down, even if there's a difference of 3, 4, 500 million in his bid to the Qatari bid, it might look more appealing as a bid because the Glazers get to stay involved, but also the debt doesn't have to be paid off. So that means, in effect, it's worth an extra 600 million to them or whatever it is, because that's kind of what the debt is at. So it's very interesting to keep an eye on it. I like looking at this stuff in the background. This business side of football, I find very intriguing. But it has the fan base up in arms at the moment about it, and I'm just wondering, is it filtering down into the club in these final few weeks of the season, and is it affecting things? I know they're kind of running out of gas from the volume of games they played, but that kind of, you know, lack of stability at the club's ownership level and stuff like that, and that coupled with the fan base being very disgruntled at the way things are going and stuff like that, it's not really a great recipe for a really good run in to see things through and get a top four and go on and try and win an FA Cup final against Man City, who at that stage might be hunting down a treble. And that's how I'm viewing it at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that would be maybe the icing on the cake, so to speak, with the FA Cup final. With that would break the donkey's back, sort of thing. I'm not quite sure about keeping the Glazers on, because there's so much angst within the fan base of Manchester. If you talk to people like Maisie, Hall, Chloe, and Torstein, are all fans of Manchester United, and I think if they were to see that the Glazers are still going to be the owners of the club, maybe, I don't think they would be too happy, because the way the club is being run, because if Manchester United drop out of the Champions League places into 5th or 6th even, then even though they've had such a good run and they kept slipping down the table, I think it will look very badly on the Glazers and anybody coming into the club as potential owners if they were to leave wouldn't look very favourable, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I think with the Glazers, I don't think it's very clear that they don't really care, and they don't really care what the fans think. These are businessmen. These are money men. These are guys who are driven by the dollar. They don't really care about it. Could be table tennis. They don't care about football. They don't care about football fans. They're fully aware of the level of hatred that exists within the United fan base for them and stuff like that. I mean, there's marches every second week and all sorts of stuff, and the Glazers out and all that kind of stuff. But I just wouldn't be surprised if they come to some deal with Jim Ratcliffe where they can hang around and keep a certain percentage and stuff like that, because I still firmly believe that, if United are sold to Qatar, that's kind of for me the final game in terms of the ownership, because you're not going to be strong enough to buy them out. They probably won't ever want to sell the club because they'll treat it as, like another hobby, another toy for them in the West and stuff like that. Now, obviously, they'll want to be at the top table. They'll want to be competitive. They'll want to try and win stuff, all that stuff that goes with it. But like, as I said to you earlier, you're not going to find a day where United are under pressure for money if the Qataris take over. You're not going to find a situation where they're going to need to sell Man United because they get strapped for cash. So this could be the final sale, certainly that we see in our lifetime for Man United. I think it'd be, before there be any change there again, it could be generational, to be honest. Um, and we've seen what happens when Bowley went into Chelsea as well, where the project is kind of simmering along and we've seen what he's done and stuff like that. It hasn't really kind of rolled out in the way that maybe Chelsea fans would have thought it did. And it's very, very clear that money doesn't always solve issues that are there, that you can throw money at the transfer window, you can throw money at players, but it doesn't guarantee you anything. And this is where this will have to be a little bit more clever. Now, I'm sure the Qatari people, if they take over, they will bring in the right levels of people at the right levels in the club, because these guys, they want to win. There's a drive to win. As I said, they're competing on a number of different levels in Europe with other people, and everyone wants to be that top dog. So I think they'll have a slightly different approach to it. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if part of the deal with Ratcliffe is that the Glazers hang around. I don't think the Glazers give two fiddlers what United fans think or anything like that, because they're in the cold face of it now for years. And can the hatred grow anymore? I don't think it can grow any more than it had. I mean, they literally took a stance last year, didn't they, or whatever it was, and broke into their own stadium and was wrecking their own stadium to make a point. Now, that's crazy when you think about it, that you would do that, but that's how strong they felt about it. I don't know whether it gets any stronger than that in terms of trying to send a message, but the Glazers have made it very clear they don't care. They don't really care about football. They've basically taken over this club. They bought it on debt and straddled the club with debt. They haven't really had to put much of their own money into it. Depending on how you argue about where money and revenue comes from, in theory, if they own the club, the revenue generated from the club is their money. So indirectly, they've put money in, but never really to the level that you would expect from an owner and stuff like that. But I just think they've straddled the club with this debt, which has become a very contentious thing in the Man United fan base. And at times, they've really, really struggled with it. They have spent money. There's no doubt about it, but they've kind of maybe appointed the wrong people at times to spend that money and in the way it was spent. Which will be interesting. But it'll be interesting to see over the next month or so, because, I mean, what are we now? We're 3 weeks away from the season ending. We're 4 weeks away probably from a transfer window opening. So people need to get their skates on here and sort out this ownership, or before they know it, they won't have solved that, and they'll be in pre-season. And then you'll get that whole sort of disarray around the pre-season and the preparation for the new season, and trying to get players in and signing players last minute and all this kind of thing. It's just an absolute mess. So we'll see what happens. Just to give people an update at the moment, second half is kicked off. There's 50 minutes gone Forest are winning 3-1 at the moment. The third goal came from Gibbs White with a penalty. So Forest look like they're on the way to a win there. Southampton are attacking heavily at the moment. It is end to end. Southampton, believe it or not, have just scored. So it's now 3-2. I haven't got the goal scorer yet, but they've just scored. So it's now 3-2. Lianco just scored, apparently. It's now 3-2 to Nottingham Forest. What a bank holiday weekend of games. What have we had so far? 8 and 5 is 13 and 6. 19 goals so far this bank holiday from 3 Premier League games. That is a
Yeah.
madness. A madness.
But you also think of Sir Alex Ferguson, because he's on the board, I believe. So everything that's happened when he was manager and seeing the decline of the club, but it also, like I'm thinking of FSG, how we don't like FSG very much, but we wouldn't actually storm Anfield and rip up seats and throw things onto the pitch, or even protest outside of Anfield. It seems like there's too much pride in the club to do something so devastating to the club. But sometimes you have to make your feelings known, even though we've got Spirit of Shankly, Hillsborough Support Alliance, and others on the board. We haven't really made our voice heard in terms of doing a protest, I don't think.
They've been flying some planes over recently for matches and stuff like that to make a point and stuff like that. But I think from our point of view, I think our fan base would have too much respect to step onto the Anfield ground and do damage like that on the pitch. To us, that's holy ground. That's sacred ground to us, and we would view it that way. I'd be very disappointed if any of our fan base, no matter how, and it's gotten quite toxic this year, of course, with us playing so poorly, not bringing in the signings that we should have. Of course, the news of Jude Bellingham potentially going to Real Madrid and we're not getting them, and all this other stuff that bubbles around that we don't give Klopp what we should give him in order for him to become successful. We can't expect him to create miracle after miracle after miracle every season, which I accept. But I don't think it should ever get to a point where any supporter should step across that barrier onto that pitch. That pitch to me is holy ground, to be honest. So yeah, that's how I would view it, you know.
Yeah, like that's why I said pride in the club, because we wouldn't sink that low. But it's just hard, I think, to when you get so disappointed with certain things within the club. I think it's hard to share that because you've got so much emotions and feelings towards something that you think should be changing without causing too much of a ruckus or whatever you want to call it. Like doing a protest because it can affect the players. So it's a difficult one, I think, to be honest. But I just wish that if they are going to sell the club, that they do it and get it over and done with, because I don't think it would be right to keep it going on and on and on. It affects people that are not actually involved with it, but on the sidelines, I think.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah, no.
don't.
Yeah,
I wish
no.
they would do something properly and actually sell or just take on some other businesses to make it more viable, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see how this one pans out. I mean, naturally, me and you being Liverpool fans, we will be quite happy to see the disarray at Man United to continue. Long may it continue, but it's intriguing to see how it's going at the moment. 56 minutes gone in the game, still 3-2 to Nottingham Forest. Forest on the attack at the moment. Southampton have had a couple of more chances as well. Let's look at European footballers back this week, Henry. We start off tomorrow night with Real Madrid versus Man City. How do you see these three European trophies panning out in the end? Real Madrid versus Man City, and then Wednesday we've AC Milan versus Inter.
Well, I'm heavily going to Real Madrid, winning tomorrow against City. It won't be a big score. Something like a 2-1. And then we go to the AC Milan Inter. If you go with the Serie A table, you've got Napoli, Lazio, and then you've got in the playoffs, as both Milan teams, they haven't really done very well this season. I'm going to go for a draw between AC Milan and Inter, the first leg. Juventus Sevilla. Juventus shouldn't even be playing. I think they should be out. But
They got awarded back their points deduction as well, which threw a real kind of spanner into the top of Serie A as well. They're now second in Serie A. Lazio are third, Inter are fourth, AC Milan are fifth. So I'm sure both Milan clubs will feel very hard done by with those points being awarded back to Juve there a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I just can't believe. What's the point of deducting points from a team if you're then going to allow them back in? It's stupid. I mean, it's like arresting someone.
Well, they won the appeal, obviously. So, but I mean, the detail of that is as sketchy as anything, anyway. So.
Yeah. Juventus Sevilla. Oh, I don't want Juventus to go through, so I'm going for Sevilla, 1-0.
Okay.
Roma against Leverkusen will be a testing tie.
It's going to be very interesting, isn't it? Jose versus Alonso.
Yes. And Tammy Abraham and Wijnaldum. So I'm going for Roma to beat Leverkusen. 2-1, I think.
Okay.
Fiorentina against
Basel.
Basel,
yeah. Basel.
Fiorentina, I will go for a win. 2-0 win.
Nice.
Then you have West Ham against AZ Alkmaar.
Yep.
West Ham are in dire trouble. Down the bottom of the Prem. I don't know the form of AZ Alkmaar. I think another draw. 1-1.
AZ Alkmaar are fourth at the moment in the Dutch league.
Oh, right. So that. Okay then. They're 2-1 to AZ Alkmaar.
Yeah, I think West Ham might take that one because they're at home, and I think the fact that they won yesterday means that the pressure in terms of the Premier League has alleviated. They're on 37 points now, so it's unlikely they're going to be caught I was saying last week on the show, I think 37 points now is probably more than enough to see you through. Because I just the teams below them, they've such tough fixtures, and I just can't see them accumulating the points for West Ham to drop into the bottom three. So that was a huge 3 points for them yesterday against United, and you could see post match with Moyes being interviewed and all, and I loved Moyes' his honesty as well. He made the point that he wanted to thank the owners because the owners could have easily sacked him and made a change a few weeks ago when they were in real trouble, but he stuck with them. And I think it'd be nice. It'd be nice. I'd like to see Moisey go on and win that Europa Conference and put a bit of European silverware back into West Ham and stuff like that. They're fabulous historical club and stuff like that. And I think Moyes, you know, he had quite a tough time at Everton, always trying to survive. He had a tough time then when he went and where did he go? Was it Real Sociedad? Was it? He was at. I think it was Real Sociedad. Was it? He managed and he got a tough time there. And then he came back and he was managing West Ham, and of course, it can always be a tough time managing West Ham as well. They kind of trying to combine the league position and also the run in the Europe, and they had a good run in Europe. Remember last year as well, So, um, I hope West Ham get over the line. I'd love to see West Ham lift the conference, and it'd be interesting as well if Roma were to go on and lift the Europa League, because obviously Jose lifted the conference last year, so this year he'd be lifting the Europa League. So it'd be interesting to see does that mean that next year then maybe the Champions League? Who knows? You know what I mean? It'd be an interesting run for Jose, but he doesn't look like he looks like he's still full of football spirit there, even at that stage. So, but it'll be interesting. I think with Real Madrid, I think it'll be really tight. I think the advantage that City have is the second leg is going to be at the Etihad, so that's kind of huge. We've often said it before ourselves as well. We love that second leg being at Anfield; gives us a much better chance. And yeah, Juve versus Sevilla. I don't know. Sevilla just look like I know they did a number on United and stuff like that, but I think that's a very different Sevilla side now than what we've been used to over the years. And I think Juventus might have just a little bit too much of them. Obviously, Juventus now can focus fully on this because obviously with Napoli clinching the Serie A, they don't have to worry about that. They're sitting in second, so they're going to confirm their Champions League spot anyway. They got the points back that were deducted. And I think they can fully focus on this now, putting a bit of silverware in the cabinet, albeit they'd prefer the Champions League, but the Europa League would be good for them. So I think Juventus will take care of Sevilla. And then I'd love to see potentially Alonso put it up to Jose. I think that's going to be an intriguing matchup. Xavi Alonso is doing an absolute sterling job at Bayer Leverkusen, and has been heavily linked as well with the Spurs job in the last week or so as well. So it'll be very interesting to see how that pans out. But we've got a great weeks of football ahead, a great week of football ahead of us now on the European scene with both competitions. Real Madrid versus Man City tomorrow night is going to be very, very intriguing to see how it goes. I suppose the only concern from Man City fans is that Pep sometimes likes to tweak things and change things, and sometimes it backfires on him in these competitions. So I think this year he has to be really, really careful of that. But if they rock into town and De Bruyne and Haaland and all are on form, they can certainly score a few goals against that Real Madrid backline. I mean, we've seen it. I know Chelsea crashed out and we crashed out, but we kind of capitulated. Our kind of race was done really from the result at Anfield. But Chelsea put it up to them in both games and stuff like that. And that was a poor Chelsea side at the time as well. And they showed that they could create opportunities, even though Real, I think, ran out 2-0 winners in both legs. And a lot of people would say, well, Real nearly treated it like two training matches and stuff like that. But Chelsea showed that they can be got at if they want to. So let's see what Man City does. And of course, the Milan derby on the other side is going to be really, really intriguing to see what comes out of that. I was watching some footage there from Serie A the other day with AC Milan. The atmosphere in that San Siro is just unbelievable, second to none. It's such an intense atmosphere. And when you have both teams in there who share that ground, it's going to be very, very intense. But yeah,
What's
just
the
have...
rules? Sorry, what's the
Yeah.
rules regarding the new format for the Champions League next season?
I don't think there's a kick in next season, or is it the following season? I think it's the following season, isn't it?
I'm
I
not too
don't
sure
think.
because
Yeah, I'm not too
what
sure.
happens? Sorry, what happens to the like? Do we still have the Champions League, the Europa League, and the Europa Championship? I mean, what? How is it going to work out with this new formation?
I don't think a whole lot changes. It's just more of a stepping down of the places, isn't it? Really, than anything. I mean, there's talk is they're going to look at reallocating it and bringing in more teams, aren't they? They're talking about what is it, 48 or something like that, and expanding it or something like that. Um, which ultimately will just mean more matches, I would assume. But I haven't looked into it fully. We did do a show on it a while ago, but I can't remember the fundamentals of it. But we will. We look at it in the summer, of course, before it happens. But I'm not sure whether it's next season or the season after that it kicks in. I'm not too sure. But yeah, I suppose the interesting thing would be if Man City win the Champions League and West Ham win the conference. What way does that work then? Obviously, you might have additional places there or something like that. Maybe not in the Champions League, because I think regardless, I think it says at the four. I don't think you can have five in it. But with West Ham winning the conference, if they were to win that, but I'm not sure if West Ham win the Europa Conference. Does that mean they get promoted automatically into the Europa League? I think, isn't it? I think that's the way that works, isn't it? And then if you win the Europa League,
You
you
go
get a
into the
place in the Champions League. So I think
ah.
that might be the way that it works. Yeah,
So who
yeah.
would you actually want in each final with the Champions League, the Europa League, and Europa Championship?
Um, I suppose looking at the two of them there, if you wanna have a really really good footballing final and an intensity, you're probably looking at Juventus versus Roma. That's what you would
Ooh.
probably want in the final of the Europa League. Now, us being Liverpool fans as well, we wouldn't be too upset with Leverkusen, wouldn't we? Love to see Xavi Alonso go on and lift a piece of silverware as well. So, but I think Juventus Roma would be a very cool Europa League final. Um, I think on the other side, the conference, I'd like West Ham to go all the way. So you're probably looking at potentially West Ham Fiorentina. But that AZ Alkmaar, that's going to be a tough one. They need to, you would imagine West Ham would need to try and take a bit of a lead over to Holland, over to the Netherlands for the second leg, because they're away for their second leg. And then in the Champions League, ultimately, I think the winner will come from the top two. No disrespect to the two Milan teams, um, as good as they've been and stuff like that, but they just haven't been the AC and the Inter Milan we know of old in Europe. So I think the winner's probably going to come from the top toy. And I'm probably thinking you're going to get. Let me see. Let me see what way I look at this.
Yeah.
Mm. I wonder. I think you're probably going to get an Inter Milan Man City final. That's what
Ooh.
I'm thinking.
Well.
I've just had a feeling all this season about Man City. So many times now they've knocked on the door, and you found even with our own history, sometimes when we knock on the door, the following season or the season after that, then you get over the line type of thing, you know. And I just think with Man City as well now, they have that experience of being ahead. They have that experience of being very close that they could nearly taste it, getting beaten by Chelsea, and then the turnaround from Real Madrid against them last time and stuff like that and all. You learn from those experiences and stuff like that. But look, I've often said it as well. It's a brave man that will back against Real Madrid. Real Madrid are royalty when it comes to this competition, and you can't take league form into account either because they show up. You hear that beautiful Champions League anthem, and something just switches on. But I just think Man City this season, there's a focus and a business like way of going about their business at the moment. Um, and I just think I'd be very surprised if Man City don't make it to the final. And if they do make it to the final, I think they'll probably beat either of the Milan teams. And that's no disrespect to either of the Milan teams. I think Man
Mm.
City would just have too much for them. Um, but yeah, that's my thinking on it at the moment. So I'm thinking kind of Juventus Roma for the Europa, hopefully Fiorentina West Ham for the conference, and then I'm thinking Man City Inter Milan for the final of the Champions League. I mean,
Okay.
ideally, what we would have wanted was Real Madrid versus Man City in the final, We would have hoping that the two teams on top drew each of the Milan teams,
Mm,
and then we might have got a Real Madrid Man City final. Now that would be a very, very different prospect in a one-off final on that type of stage. Man City then would have to draw on much more experience to see through that, with Real Madrid being so experienced at that.
mm.
But I think in a
Yeah.
two-legged affair, I think it's that bit more difficult than going to the Etihad. I think if City can keep it tight tomorrow night, even if they go down by a goal and bring it back to the Etihad, I think they might have enough to still get through.
Okay. And still, are you thinking that Haaland would be the main threat towards the back line of Real Madrid?
Yeah, yeah, I think
Okay.
that'll be part of it as well. But I think the problem you have with Man City at the moment is you've got Holland, who's unbelievable, historic, just incredible, a goal machine. But goals come from everywhere. Man City are just, although Holland has been the standout this year and stuff like that, they've got goals from everywhere. Kevin De Bruyne can score, Rodri can score,
Mm.
Ake is getting goals, Ruben Diaz scores goals, Foden is there. Gundogan the other day getting a brace, I think it was against Leeds, as far as I know. You know what I mean? So many. Jack Grealish can come on. They can score goals from everywhere. You know what I mean? And it's just that thread of, okay, you can shackle Holland and you can mark Holland and you can do what you got to do with him, stuff like that. But then there's always someone else there. You seen it even the other day in the Leeds game. Julian Alvarez, they've just got so many options and stuff like
Mm.
that. You know what I mean? And look, Real Madrid are in a similar position. You've Vinicius there, you've Benzema. They've so many good players: Modric, Cruz, Camavinga. They've great players as well. But I think Man City, if you look at the broadness of the people there that can score goals, I think they have a much broader scope of scoring goals. And I think for Real Madrid it would be naive to think that it's Holland or bust. I don't think it is. And I know Rafa Benitez did a piece in the Guardian, it was the other day, or one of the papers, and he did a whole article. I haven't got to read it yet, but I heard about it. He did a whole article on how he thinks Real Madrid will figure out how to bring the downfall of Man City in the Champions League this year. So I'm sure that'll be an interesting read, but I haven't seen it yet. Just to let you know, 73 minutes gone, and Forest have just scored. It's now 4-2, as far as I know. So
Yay!
it looks like it could be
Game
it could
over.
be well, it could be, but there's still at least 20 minutes to go. But it's 4-2, 73 minutes gone. So it's looking good for Forrest and Stevie Cooper at the moment. So um, let's see what happens. But it's 4-2 at the moment. So interesting. What a bank holiday of goals. Uh,
Yes, it's been quite a cracker. And we've
Real
got.
Madrid got nothing to lose. Real Madrid have a lot to lose. In this is because they're. I think La Liga is beyond a stretch to them now at this stage. I would imagine. Um,
Well, Barca will win the La Liga this season, so this is their final. If they don't beat, if City beat them over two legs, then Real Madrid's season is over
yeah, it's
completely.
mad, and they're talking about they want to sack Ancelotti as well. Like it's mad. Like
Really?
Real Madrid, yeah. Like you talk about clubs out there at the moment and how they play and stuff like that, and we talk about rootlessness. Real Madrid don't suffer fools at all. You could win a La Liga there and a Copa del Rey, and if you don't win the Champions League, they want you out the door, and their fans will
Wow.
rock up to your house on the training ground and let you know exactly how they feel. They could start by getting rid of the offside rule. I don't think they can do that. That's I know you talk about it a lot, but I think the game would be a little bit weird without it. Final: AC Milan versus Real Madrid. Interesting. We'll see how it goes. I'm thinking the other way. I'm thinking Man City versus Inter. Ted is also taking AC versus Real as well. So it'll be interesting. Let's see how it goes. But it's yes, yes, yes. AC Milan versus Real Madrid. What did you say the same, Henry? Are you AC and Real Madrid?
um, I'm still going Real Madrid, AC Milan. I
That's
don't
that's what you're picking
think.
for the final.
Yes.
Okay, interesting. We shall see. Should be interesting.
I just think their experience, both AC Milan, because AC Milan, I go back to 2005, with the Shevchenkos and the whatevers. We just managed to beat them with the side that we had. And although Inzaghi is the Inter manager after being Lazio's manager, I don't think he has enough with the team that he has to beat AC Milan over 2 legs. So yes, I'm going for Real Madrid AC Milan final.
Let me have a look.
And also LFC ladies won of Man City.
2-1, wasn't it?
Yes, 2-1. I didn't expect them to win because Man City beat us 3-0 at their ground. So it was a very good game to watch because it was on FA Player, unfortunately, not covered by TV. And we've had injuries as well, so we've got 2 games left to play in the WSL, but teams around us have got 3, so we could finish lower than 7th where we are at the moment.
Yep, 78 minutes gone. Nottingham Forest on the attack here with a corner. Gibbs White swinging in the corner here. I'll keep you posted if we get any more goals. Southampton after recovering from that. So, but it seems to be a lot of wave of Forest and stuff like that. Southampton running out of gas at the moment, running out of games and running out of time. Look like they're on their way to the championship. So that's it. Another show in the bag. Another Monday mashup. I'm going to let you jump off, Henry, so you can enjoy the rest of your bank holiday. It's going to be very interesting.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I appreciate
thanks for jumping on. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Of course, make sure you hit up all the channels in the chat there. Ted's in there as well. Check out his channels and stuff like that. And Warren was in earlier. Warren does a great show on a Saturday. Always great fun in the chat on that. And Morris is in there as well. GP Productions Podcast. Check out all those channels. Give them all your support. And Henry's, of course. Make sure you're subbing to all the channels in the chat. The guys are always putting in a great shift here on the podcast and stuff like that. I will be back. I will be back tomorrow night with the wrestling on Dynamo's Dozen. That's at 7 o'clock. Want to get finished so we can see that big Champions League game, Real Madrid versus Man City. Then on Thursday, I'll be back with Thursday Tier Talk with Darren. We'll be going through the games coming up at the weekend, beat the bookie, all that kind of good stuff, giving our picks and tips. We'll also be discussing the situation at Man United, and we'll also be talking about the top 4 race, me being a Liverpool man and Darren being a United man. It should be an interesting conversation. I will be back then over the weekend with a preview for the Leicester game. And then, of course, Monday, I'll be back with a match reaction and some sort of a Monday mashup tied in with that. We'll be doing a show that it'll be later, obviously, after the Liverpool, Leicester versus Liverpool game. Until next time, folks, make sure you hit a like on the video on the way out, subscribe to the channel and all the channels, hit the bell notification button. We go live all the time. Make sure you head over to TikTok as well. Follow us there as well. We're also on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Wherever you pick up your socials, you will find the upper tier. And until next time, folks, have a safe bank holiday weekend and enjoy the European football coming up this week. Cheers, Henry.